Donald Trump, whatever his minions might have said, his cabinet might have said, he was always, on the face of it at least, extremely friendly to Prime Minister Modi. He never said a word out of line, sir.
You're very right. I think he has treated his allies and his partners much worse than he has treated his adversaries. Basically, what India and the Indian leadership and Prime Minister Modi particularly, they have been focused on is national interest. National interest is supreme.
Because mother of all deals, and many people are referring to the India-US deal as the father of all deals because it's going to be so much bigger, because unless it's bigger than everybody else, Donald Trump is not happy.
Remember what Howard Lutnick said, that very soon Prime Minister Modi is going to, the sort of words that they used, that he would come groveling in front of Trump and say sorry and say, now tell me what do I have to do.
Acidic comments coming out of the US. We didn't like it one bit. We don't like being spoken to like that. But there was absolutely no response from either Dr. Jaishankar or Prime Minister Modi or anybody else. India just kept quiet.
When there was this pushback against India, I think India played its cards beautifully.
And suddenly Canada goes and says hello to Beijing. And Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, he does the same. In quick succession, within a month, both of them go and shake hands with Xi Jinping. Would that be some sort of a jolt to Donald Trump, sir?
The United States has lost considerable credibility as a reliable partner over the last 1 year. The first country from which we started importing significant quantities of uranium was Kazakhstan.
Is India now absolutely, if I may use the word, weaned off from Russian oil? Or are we still going to buy some Russian oil, at least till the time it suits us monetarily, if it's profitable for us? Jai Hind, friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching Open Caller. Geopolitics, as it is extremely complex. But with Donald Trump sitting in the hot seat in the White House, it gets more complex. Today we have a very special guest and we are going to try and decode what is happening. The US-India deal, Mark Carney coming to India, critical minerals, all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to welcome on our show Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, former ambassador to Latvia, Kazakhstan and Sweden. Sir, Jai Hind, and a very warm welcome, sir.
Jai Hind, Gaurav, and it's a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Sir, Donald Trump announces suddenly at night that the deal is true. Modi is a fantastic and a great friend of mine, and India is going to buy $500 billion of goods and services from the United States of America. India will stop buying Russian oil. India will buy oil from Venezuela, etc., etc. A long post on Truth Social, sir. It will roll out in a couple of months. Things are still uncertain. What I want to ask you, sir, is what is the trigger for this happening all of a sudden? Nobody expected it. People knew that it would roll out eventually, but nobody expected suddenly Donald Trump to put something on Truth Social and say, hey, it's done. And then Prime Minister Modi responds. What do you think was the trigger, sir?
Yeah, thank you very much once again, Gaurav, for having me. I think to respond to that question, maybe one needs to go back a little bit and basically see as to why the deal was stuck. Because, the deal has been ready. I think all of us know that. As far as the substantive contents of the deal are concerned, it was ready in July last year. And, everyone was expecting that, it's going to be announced now, it's going to be announced in a few days, but then it didn't come. And then we saw that on the 31st of July, we had tariffs 25% being imposed on India. 7th of August, tariffs again being imposed 25%, basically because India is buying Russian oil. Now, we termed these latter tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, of course, the first ones, we were negotiating with the United States on getting a win-win, mutually beneficial deal. But the second one we said was very unfair and it was uncalled for because there were so many other countries which were buying not only oil but so many other things. United States itself has been buying from Russia. So there was no rationale, there was no logic for imposing this tariff on on India. And the reason we thought was basically, in my view, two reasons. One is because Mr. Trump did not get the credit that he thought he should for the cessation of hostilities between India and Pakistan in May of last year after Operation Sindoor. He thought that if India had supported, India had agreed, India had given him credit, he would have been a sure shoe in as far as the Nobel Peace Prize is concerned. And the second, in my view, was that he was really able to get unilateral deals from all around the world. You know, not only his allies, that is the United, that is European Union, that is Japan, that is South Korea, but even as far as Indonesia, Vietnam, so many of the developing countries. What he said is that he was imposing tariffs. On Vietnam, it was 20%, on Indonesia, it was 19%, and the US goods were going in tariff free into those markets. He wanted a unilateral deal with India, and India was not willing to give.
So he would decide. I want to ask you something, sir, as an addition to the first question is, what is the logic for a 19% or a 20%? Is there some mechanism in the Trump administration that everybody sits down, there is a meeting, and they say, no, 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 this is what we're losing out with respect to Indonesia or Thailand or Vietnam, etc. And hey, this is our logic for this percent. Or does he just get up and say that it's done?
I think, in my view, it is very ad hoc. I don't think there is any scientific agreement. Even when he had, if you remember, the Liberation Day tariffs that were imposed at the beginning of April, that when Howard Lutnick had got those charts saying, this is the sort of trade deficit that we are suffering from. So it was some sort of a computation on that. But there was no scientific analysis that was done with any of these countries. Because you remember, initially India was imposed 26%. Then we brought it down to 25%, etc. So I don't think there is any logic. But if you permit, I'll complete what I was saying.
Yes, please.
That, those were the two reasons why he did not sign the deal. And now what he saw was that India had been able to sign deals with a large number of countries. And the icing on that cake was, so to say, the mother of all deals. That is with the European Union, which had been undergoing negotiations for the last 18, 19 years. Gaurav, I was there in Brussels when we launched the negotiations of the India-EU trade deal in 2007. And at that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh, who was the Prime Minister, he had said we should try to conclude these negotiations within 2 years. But of course, there were so many ups and downs, so many hiccups. We stopped the negotiations in 2013. We again resumed them in 2022. So this, after so much of protracted negotiations, we were able to conclude it on the 27th of January.
Sure.
And so I think he thought that so much was happening as far as India, a big economy, fastest growing major economy, soon to become the third largest economy in the world, and he is losing out. Number two, what he also realized is what India has given to him. India is not going to go beyond its red lines, and India is not going to offer him a unilateral advantage. It has to be a win-win arrangement, that the United States also wins access to the Indian market. India also has a good access. So I think when this realization dawned upon him that nothing better could be attained and he was missing out on the action, that is when he decided that he has to come on board.
So you mentioned the India-EU deal, and you said that, because mother of all deals, and many people are referring to the India-US deal as the father of all deals because it's going to be so much bigger, because unless it's bigger than everybody else, Donald Trump is not happy. But I also want to ask you about Mark Carney going and shaking hands with Xi Jinping. When Prime Minister Modi did that, it was okay. India is not in that part of the world, the so-called Western Hemisphere that Trump is so possessive about, sir. I'm saying that Prime Minister Modi went, and he also said that we have lost India. He made that comment. And Prime Minister Modi shook hands with Vladimir Putin, with Xi Jinping. All of that happened, sir. That is one piece. Now, suddenly you have people from NATO. You have trusted partners who've been trusted since before the Second World War. And suddenly Canada goes and says hello to Beijing. And Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, he does the same. In quick succession, within a month, both of them go within a month, both of them go and shake hands with Xi Jinping. Would that be some sort of a jolt to Donald Trump, sir?
Yeah, he will not acknowledge it, but I'm sure it has sort of, struck him hard because he thought that tariffs are a leverage that he can employ, that he can sort of, make other people bend to his will, but it is having the exactly the opposite impact. The implications are exactly the reverse. So you mentioned about Carney, you mentioned about Keir Starmer. Even as far as India is concerned, you know what he would have thought. Remember what Howard Lutnick said, that very soon Prime Minister Modi is going to, the sort of words that they used, that he would come groveling in front of Trump and say sorry and say, now tell me what do I have to do. But India did nothing of that sort. And so I think the limits of his own leverage, limits of his own power would have come to him, and he would have realized that India is too important a country, both in terms of business, trade, investment, market, but also because of its strategic importance to let go from there. Because he has also seen the sort of reception that Vladimir Putin got in India when he came in December last year for the India-Russia summit. So he would have seen that all his pressure application of tariffs, 25% additional tariffs on Indian goods because of purchase of Russian oil, that is not leading him anywhere. And I think that is definitely, something that would have come to haunt him. He would have realized, he is, rather than gaining advantage, he is really shooting himself in the foot.
Absolutely, sir. And how do you think? You've been a career diplomat, sir. You've spent decades in the foreign service, obviously as ambassador also, and held very important positions. I want to ask you, how do you feel India played this? Because you mentioned Howard Lutnick, you mentioned so many other people, Pete Navarro. Acidic comments coming out of the US. We didn't like it one bit. We don't like being spoken to like that. But there was absolutely no response from either Dr. Jaishankar or Prime Minister Modi or anybody else. India just kept quiet. Do you think that was the right thing to do?
No, absolutely. I think that was because there was no point in getting into a verbal duel with the minions of Mr. Trump, because that is what they seem to have suggested, that he was trying to play hardball and trying to provoke and trying to incite India sort of get into this, and so come at to a position where it would be in a position of a supplicant. That is what India didn't want. India maintained its dignity, and India continued to do what it had to do. It was very sober. It was very restrained. It did not respond in the same measure. I think this will really be seen. Many people I have heard, they have said that this is a case book study of how to deal with Mr. Trump. Both, I think, both ways. When we were on a good wicket in February 13th, if you remember, just about a year ago, when Prime Minister Modi went to Washington, D.C., within a month of President Trump having been sworn, because, that is the early mover's advantage, that you wanted to sort of, sign the deal so that there would be no uncertainties for the rest of the term of Mr. Trump. That didn't work out because of the reasons that we have discussed just now. But when there was this pushback against India, I think India played its cards beautifully. And many other countries are also thinking, those who went down literally on their knees, currying favor with Mr. Trump, that this is the way to deal with him and to stand up straight, because even the other countries, even as far as the European Union is concerned, they thought that they had been able to buy peace in the area of trade for the next 3 years. That was just a mirage.
Not true, sir.
Not true, because he imposed these 10% additional tariffs on 8 countries which were not supportive of his
takeover of Greenland, sir.
Takeover of Greenland, absolutely.
So one question which I want to, which is really, tickled me in my mind. Donald Trump, whatever his minions might have said, his cabinet might have said. He was always, on the face of it at least, extremely friendly to Prime Minister Modi. He never said a word out of line, sir. And of course, neither did Prime Minister Modi. It's not in our culture otherwise, or even our diplomatic culture, to get into a sort of a slanging match with somebody. But Donald Trump, he's made these comments about so many people, about Mark Carney, about Keith Starmer, about Putin, about everybody. But he has always been extremely polite and holding himself back, if I may say so, while speaking about Prime Minister Modi. Why did that happen? Where is that differential, key differentials?
Yeah, no, you're very right. I think he has treated his allies and his partners much worse than he has treated his adversaries. He has always addressed Xi Jinping with respect because he thinks, even as far as Kim Jong-un is concerned, you
Yes,
remember, meaning he's met him twice or thrice in his first term.
Yes.
And he has never really had any harsh words to say, like he has said about Macron, about his glasses, and about, even Friedrich Merz or Keith Starmer or Carney or anyone else, Shinbaum, the Mexican president and all. He said so many made such unpalatable comments, but not about his adversaries, normally not about Putin, definitely not about Xi Jinping, and also about Mr. Modi. So he has been, I think, walking that fine line. Although at times I must say that some of his comments about Mr. Modi, he has tried to mimic him and all that sort of things. They do give this impression that he's trying to be patronizing. But I think as far as we are concerned, we have taken it in our stride. Because basically what India and the Indian leadership and Prime Minister Modi particularly, they have been focused on is national interest. National interest is supreme. And that is what has really, been at the back of mind as to how do we take our conversation with the United States forward. It doesn't help, it doesn't pay to get upset and angry and, lash back or something or respond in equal measure. Maintain your cool, develop your strength, and speak to the other party with strength.
So, I'm going to talk to you about critical minerals, sir. And you were ambassador in Kazakhstan. We'll shift focus there. Central Asia is extremely important. Part of the erstwhile USSR also, sir. Now, Dr. S. Jaishankar went to Washington. Marco Rubio was there. The critical minerals ministerial happened, and there are a host of countries. India is hosting a similar platform in Mumbai in the coming days, sir. And everybody is talking about rare earth. Now, the truth here is that 60% of rare earth magnets / minerals are produced by China, and 90+% are processed / manufactured by China. China pretty much controls the global critical minerals supply chain, sir. Now, my question to you is, how does the world say that, hey, let's get together and it's like energy, sir. What I want to say is that it's like energy. You need a sustained supply of affordable energy. Similarly, you need a partner that you can trust. You need to trust that person that he will keep. In case of China, if you have a problem with China, they'll switch off the tap, sir. How is India approaching this very, very important issue?
Yeah, so two things, very important points that you made. Number one, as far as the weaponization of critical minerals is concerned,
Sir.
that everyone is apprehensive as far as China is concerned. And in fact, that was the leverage that China had against the United States when, if you remember, Mr. Trump had threatened 245% tariffs on China. And then China said that we are going to put an export ban on the supply of these critical minerals and magnets to the United States and to the world. And these are used in so many things, whether it is defense, semiconductors, medical equipment. The much of the high-tech industry would come to a standstill if these were really not made available. And so everyone realized what is the value of these critical minerals. And you're very right, 60% of the supplies and 90% of the processing is controlled by China. So all the countries are getting together. I referred to the visit of Prime Minister Modi to Washington, D.C. in February last year. That time also there was a critical mineral initiative that was signed between the two countries. Of course, at that time, the trust levels were very high because for the last 25 years, we've been seeing that India-US relationship has been on an upward trajectory. It has really been shaken up over the last 1 year, I would say last 8 months, since August of last year. So maybe coming up to that level, it will really take some time. But India has been engaging with a large number of other countries. You would remember that we had signed a trilateral critical minerals initiative with Japan and Australia.
Yes, sir.
Because there are so many countries. And when Prime Minister Modi had gone to, you remember, to Africa recently, to Latin America, to South America, he had signed critical mineral deals, whether it is with Brazil, whether it is with Argentina, whether it's with Chile, also countries in Africa. So I think India is also proactively working on this. And basically, what we want to do is collaborate with the partners. Reliability and trust is the most fundamental element in all these things, because we see the supply chain disruptions, how China started taking advantage of it in the post-COVID period. So whether it is reliability, the resilience of supply chains, that is what we are keenly interested in, and particularly in the area of critical minerals. So I would very much welcome this initiative. But as far as the United States is concerned, Gaurav, I must say that United States has lost considerable credibility as a reliable partner over the last 1 year. So it really needs to work very hard in that. I think as far as credibility of India is concerned, some of the other players is concerned, it is very much there. But all of us need to come together and work so that we are able to stop this weaponization that is coming from China.
So, a word about Kazakhstan, sir, because you have served there. You've been our ambassador to Kazakhstan. You said that Kazakhstan has a whole lot of rare earth minerals, and India has perhaps the oldest deal with Kazakhstan in terms of getting that to India and all of that. If you could please tell our viewers what that is about, sir, and then I'll move on to my next very important question about the F-35 fighter jets.
Okay, sure. So as far as Kazakhstan is concerned, meaning very many people would not really be familiar with it. It's a large country. It is India is the 7th largest country in the world. Kazakhstan is the 9th largest country in the world. So it is about 2.8 million square kilometers. So its geographical size provides it with the possibility that out of the 110 minerals in the Mendeleev's table, it has commercially viable quantities of about more than 100 of them. So you name it, whether it is oil, gas, iron ore, cobalt, magnesium, uranium, it has huge quantities of all of those and of critical minerals and rare earths. For instance, speaking about uranium, it has the world's second largest reserves of uranium in the world, and it is currently the world's largest producer of uranium ore. So when India started its own development of its own nuclear energy, it wanted more uranium ore and nuclear material. When India had signed the India-US civilian nuclear deal in 2005, 2008, we got it approved from the Nuclear Suppliers Group and the IAEA. The first country from which we started importing significant quantities of uranium was Kazakhstan. So I think these countries, we call it Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, all these we call our extended neighborhood. And all these countries have very significant reserves and supplies of rare earths. So India really needs to start looking afresh at these countries and also exploiting whatever minerals are available there.
And also Mark Carney is coming, sir, in March.
Mark Carney is coming here. So I think Mark Carney, meaning I don't really need to refer to his address at the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Yes.
And he spoke about, how the middle power group, they need to start coming together. India has already been working on that, and in fact, India EU FTA is a step in that direction. Our connect with Japan, with Australia, with ASEAN, with South Korea, our reach out to Africa, our reach out to Latin America. It's also the middle power and also getting together the power of the global south, which we really projected when India was the presidency of G20. And now this year, when India is the presidency of the BRICS, that also, I think, is going to come very much to the fore. Mark Carney's visit in that sense is very important because Canada has also, meaning huge territorial area, about I think also about 8 or 9 million square kilometers, which is about 3 times the size of India.
Sure.
So they have also huge supplies of uranium,
Sure.
huge supplies of commodities, oil, gas, agriculturally very rich, so we can work together. And of course, the FTA that had been initiated earlier, if you remember, during the time of Stephen Harper, before Justin Trudeau came to power. I think that needs to be revived. There is keen interest on both sides. The final point here I would like to make is what Mr. Trump has been able to do. You mentioned about Carney going to Beijing and Keir Starmer going to Beijing, is diversifying. Initially, there was that comfort level and that confidence that our relationship and partnership, United States being the largest economic player, so to say, $31 trillion economy and biggest market. So all countries which had relations, whether it was Europe for security, Canada, 75% of its trade, they were in their comfort zone. But Mr. Trump has shaken all this up. So every country is looking for trusted partners and diversified relations.
Sure. So we talk about NATO. So there's a lot of, I think ever since Donald Trump said that he wants Greenland, I think that NATO chapter is, to use a phrase used by Mark Carney, I think it has been ruptured. Though he said it in a different context, but I will use it here and say that NATO relationship, especially Article 5, has been ruptured. Now, Denmark comes back and says that we're not going to go ahead with our order of F-35s, which is a 5th generation fighter jet, perhaps the most advanced in the world. And America was really, really keen. Now, there is a sensing amongst NATO countries, and I never thought I would see this day in my life, where a NATO country says that we can't trust the United States of America because, and this is what the people are saying, sir, in Denmark and other countries, sir, who had ordered for the F-35s, including the Canadians, sir. Now they're saying that we don't know. Tomorrow Donald Trump might as well say that, or somebody else in America may say that, hey, we are stopping the supplies because you don't agree with us. How do you see that going, sir?
No, absolutely. I think that's the problem of trust. That is the problem of reliability. Because, this is what Mr. Trump has been saying, that if he can use the instrumentality of tariff to browbeat his, not only his opponents, but also his colleagues, also his partners, also his allies,
Sure.
then what will happen later on if he were to use the same weaponization as far as some major defense platforms are concerned? So, you remember that's what he tried to promote as far as India is concerned, that United States has the best fighter aircraft, best fighter jets, F-35, and you take it. But India will be very, very wary and apprehensive of getting into any major defense deals with the United States. Although we have extended the agreement, the defense agreement, for 10 years last year.
Sure.
But everyone is going to be very apprehensive. NATO, his barbs on NATO had started even during his first term. You remember?
Yes,
He said NATO is brain dead, and that all the countries need to whether they are all the allied partners, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, etc., they need to pay for their own defense, and also the in Europe from increase their contribution to defense from 2% to 5% of the GDP. They were
Yes.
not even meeting the 2%
Yes.
target. So he was not very well disposed towards NATO in the past also. But this has definitely shaken up the whole system there. And that is why you would see that although under the Lisbon Treaty 2009 of the European Union, you have the European security and defense policy, but they were not really taking it seriously. This time when they came to India and signed, everyone is talking about the mother of all deals. But along with this deal, Gaurav, we need to recognize that there are a number of other agreements. Security and defense agreement was another one, that, in terms of security in the Indo-Pacific, in terms of bilateral cooperation, Europe also wants to diversify. If I may just say, in continuity of that,
Yes, please.
the mobility agreement was also signed. So it is not only a trade partnership that has been cemented with the visit of Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa. It has been a much broader partnership. Although we signed the strategic partnership agreement in 2000, but it is coming to fruition only now. Because along with economy, along with investment, trade in goods and services, we also have mobility. We have our talent going to Europe. We are finding that in many of these Anglo-phile countries, whether it is Canada, it is US, it is UK, Australia, etc., are people who are there, although they have contributed so significantly to the rise of high tech and preparing good jobs there. But they are there's a pushback against them. And as far as Europe is concerned, they are welcoming Indian talent with open arms. When Frederick Merz was here, one of the top items on his agenda was how to get Indian talent, how to get Indian students from here so that they could work together, and Indian professionals from here. So I think that is what is going to happen.
So, now one question which, so this whole thing started off with Trump throwing a fit, saying that, you guys are buying Russian oil and that's not okay, an additional 25% tariff because India is essentially funding the war. And you very rightly said that there are European countries, US itself, sir, US itself buying uranium fuel from Russia for their energy needs. My question is, sir, Venezuela. Trump also announced that India will be, buying less and less of Russian oil. It's going to decrease every month because it's not a switch that you can throw and say that, okay, from tomorrow we are not buying Russian oil. But then Venezuela will supply oil to India and India will buy oil. So Prime Minister Modi spoke to the Venezuelan president and they had a chats. So India is buying Venezuelan oil. That is what we know as of now, sir. So is India now absolutely, if I may use the word, weaned off from Russian oil? Or are we still going to buy some Russian oil, at least till the time it suits us monetarily, if it's profitable for us?
Okay, let me put it this way. India will not suddenly start buying Venezuelan oil. India has always been buying Venezuelan oil. In fact, the same lady who's the acting president, Elsie Rodriguez, she was here in India in February 2025. She participated in the India Energy Week. I had met her at that time because she is a big devotee of Sri Sat Sai Baba. And I happened to be, on the board of the Sat Sai organization in Delhi. So when she was here in Delhi for the India Energy Week, she came to pay respect and to pay obeisance to Sri Sat Sai Baba, and I had a meeting with her. And she said India continues to buy Venezuelan oil. You see, we have to keep in mind, Gaurav, that Venezuelan oil is heavy crude. Not very many refineries. As you know, India is one of the most efficient countries for refining oil, and that's why we were able to get from Russia and refine it and supply it to the global markets, including particularly to Europe and to the United States.
Yes.
So heavy crude is concerned, the refineries of in Jamnagar of Reliance, they are well equipped. There are not very many refineries in the world that can deal with heavy crude, but our refineries, some of our refineries, are ideally suited to refine the heavy crude from Venezuela. So we have always been buying. It's not going to be the first time
Yes, sir.
that we are going to do it. And right now, because of Mr. Trump's sanctions, those quantities had come down. They had also come down because there was lack of investment in the Venezuelan oil industry. And that is why, although they have this, 303 billion barrels of oil availability in Venezuela, but they were producing barely 1 million tons or something of that sort per year. So their production was
Very low, sir.
very low, limited. You need much more investment to get into Venezuela, several $billion before it can be, ramped up, the production can be increased. So India will has been buying and will buy Venezuelan oil. So that is nothing new. As far as the Russian oil is concerned, I don't think it's going to be switched off like that. There are, of course, sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil, so maybe our companies will not buy that. But otherwise, there are so many other companies which are not under sanction. So it will, I think, as far as the figures of December last year that are available, I think our offtake was to the tune of about 37% of oil, all oil coming out of the Russia was coming to India. Less than what is going to China. China, I think, is about 45-46%.
Sure.
But still, it was significant. We were buying. So maybe we will see, as our ministry has said, that we don't tell our companies where to go and buy their oil. They will go, they will scout the international market, they will see what is advantages to them in terms of price, what is beneficial to them, delivery schedules, and they will buy accordingly. So I think in this case also, barring Rosneft and Lukoil, because none of these big importers, private companies, would like to put themselves, on the wrong end of a stick as far as the US is concerned.
Sure.
But otherwise, whatever possibilities there are, and India today, Gaurav, is buying oil from 41 countries. It is not one or two. So, if you get a decent deal from one, you will buy from there. If you get a decent deal, discount from Russia, our companies, I'm sure, will continue to buy to the extent possible.
Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to us, ladies and gentlemen, with Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. We had a lovely, lovely conversation on Donald Trump, on this deal that Trump has spoken about, the India-US deal, which is supposed to be the father of all deals, and so many other things like Venezuelan oil, etc. And thank you very much for joining us for this lovely conversation. I'll be back again very shortly with another special guest. Till then, Jai Hind.